keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs. These are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast.
Boom. What is going on, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
And I still am never used to whatever intro dance Rob is going to do whenever we start these things. I know there's going to be one, but he changes it up every time.
Every time. Got to keep you on your toes.
It's true. I'm a one-trick pony, man. If we ain't two-stepping, I ain't doing it. So, okay, I think I can. I can't even do that. What is happening? Oh man, well, super stoked for tonight's episode with our good buddy Dr. Warren Booth, who will be joining us in just a minute. But before that, how you doing, Rob?
I am doing okay. Like
I see you've been herping, man.
Weekend,
you've been herping.
Yeah. Last weekend I went herping both days, and I was out for like several hours both days looking for snakes. So like, doesn't life get better than that? I don't know. But we saw so much stuff. I went out with Nate, who we've had on, Nature Nate.
Yep.
Me and him went out on Saturday, and then went out with Christian the following day and his partner. So like, so many animals, so much hiking. It was a blast. I had so much fun, and we saw lots of stuff both days. Like, it was a little bit more chilly on Sunday, so we saw like a little bit less, but we still saw 5 species of snakes, eastern box turtles, slimy salamanders. Like, we saw a little bit of everything. So
heck yeah.
I'm not gonna complain. I saw more snakes on Saturday and then more variety on Sunday. So it's like, perfect. It was so good. So I love it. That's where it's at. And then I got like a month left on scrub eggs, so that's good. Got that carpet python slugged out, which was a bummer, but still waiting on a couple more snakes to drop eggs though, I think. So
sweet.
Shouldn't be a complete wash of a season. I'll still have a bunch of stuff going on. So
heck yeah, dude.
What about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired and draggy today. I was up earlier than normal for a couple of meetings, and then I've been doing reptile stuff, obviously doing some stuff for US ARC editing, still editing a bunch of Tinley content. So there's much content filmed, which means many hours staring at a computer screen. So I'm slightly loopy, but but we're doing good. I'm stoked because, of course, it's still early, but might have actually salvaged getting a Borneo clutch this year. So
let's go.
I'm pretty happy about that. Ironically enough, as things just start falling around me, I had 2 pairs that were going this year, and one was that white wall ocelot from Dan Magano to my VPI striped ultra that I got from Nick Bottini. They were locking like crazy, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good. She's not going at all. And my VPI super stripe to the super stripe I got from Matt Minatola, when I originally paired them, they wanted nothing to do with each other. So I was like, okay, well, either I missed the window or she's just not ready yet. No worries. And he's a smaller male, so I didn't want to stress him out too much either. But one day I was like, man, the super stripe girl's been chilling at the colder side a little more than normal. So I was like, let me just throw the male in there and see what happens. And the next day they were locked, and I was like, game on, man, game on. So I grabbed her out after I separated them and palpated her, and she was jacked with follicles. So I was like, yes, okay. She already pooped, so I know I'm not getting tricked by poop this go around.
Oh no.
So, and I paired them up again earlier today, and they're actually locked right now. So I'm like, okay, cool. This would be, if I can get one clutch of Borneos, I'm good, because I've gone a couple years without producing them. So So I'm super stoked about that. First colubrid ovulation happened nice and early, so we'll get some scaleless Texas rats. So
Oh.
that'll be fun. I know they're just for Rob. I'm specifically breeding them just for Rob because I know how much he loves scaleless snakes.
I hope you can see my
Um,
incredulous look at you.
I can feel it. I can feel it. But I'm stoked about that. This female is massive. She's probably like 5.5, 6 foot long. So that should be a really, really good clutch. She's been locking a bunch with the male. So got a bunch of other colubrid things breeding, got some more Amazon copulations happening. Probably a couple of weeks away from the first Amazon ovulation, which is sweet. And I think that's almost about it. Got some new black box cages coming in very soon. Shout out to Black Box Cages, our show sponsor, as always. So I'm super stoked about that. Just as it's been really fun, just upgrading things and going from keeping, just for the sheer number of animals that I've kept, going from keeping everything in racks to downsizing and putting things in cages. It's nice to see some animals again when I go down there. And
Yeah.
stainless steel and freedom breeders everywhere. But yeah, so I'm excited. It's
Hell
gonna be
yeah.
a very fun season, and I'm probably gonna be inundated with babies, but who cares? That's what we're doing this for. That's what we're doing this for. So Rob, when you want table space at Raleigh, I'll have exactly 1 cubic feet of space.
That's probably plenty for me because I'm never trying to really push sales, so
Yeah, that's fair. But heck yeah, man. So I'm excited. 2025 is going to be a great year, and it's continuing to be a great year because we have great podcast episodes, including this one. So without further ado, let's get the man in here. Sorry in advance because Limey's already here. Subtitles weren't working, but Dr. Warren Booth, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, how's things?
Things are good, man.
Limey really is one to talk. Like, how can most people even understand what the guy's saying? I'll come back with some witty retort in a second. Here we go.
Oh man,
I've
so
known
funny.
Limey for about 19 years. So
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's been a while, but I haven't seen him in maybe 13. So I need to get down to the Raleigh show now that I'm back this kind of side of the US. I need to get back down to the Raleigh show because I used to go to it every time it was hosted for about 6 years, 7 years when I lived in Raleigh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's a fun show.
It's definitely a fun time.
Yeah,
it's definitely a fun time.
And then hang out at the hotel, hang out. Everybody's drinking a little bit. Everybody's getting a little wild.
Is it always the same? Do they still hang out in it's like a Red Roof Inn or something? Is that the hotel they stay in?
Yeah, at the Ramada. Yeah, that little Ramada. Yeah.
Well, I heard they're actually going to be relocating the fairgrounds, or at least part of the fairgrounds. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that as well. So I know, like the dates for the Raleigh Repticon only went up to May. So I don't know what the deal is for afterwards. Yeah, what's next with that? But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna blame Limey if it stops happening because that's usually just a good default.
Yeah.
So
is it a good show? It used to be great.
It's been consistently good for me, at least. It was the first show that I did when I moved out here, and it was like the best show I ever had. From a financial standpoint, which was wonderful and certainly locked me in because I was like, whoa, I really didn't think this much money was possible to make it a show anymore. But
awesome.
But yeah, it's really been a great show, and I think that's kind of become like the hub for of most of the guys in the state to just kind of come to Raleigh and at least hang out. So that makes it fun for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Like I know that I saw you at the Charlotte show last year.
Oh yeah, yes. The All American show. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna head down to that next month, me and my son.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
Call down on the Saturday because we're only 2 hours away, so it means we can kind of drive in, do the show, and then drive back that evening. So I'm hoping it's gonna take off because it was a good show whenever it was on. I thought it was pretty good last year.
Yeah, that one was a really good show. I'm excited for that one too. I'm super excited because we pulled Nick Bottini from Cold Blooded Earth out of retirement for that show. So there's going to be some cool
Cool.
blood
Oh,
pythons
that's awesome.
at that
Yeah,
show.
great.
So
Very cool.
yeah, I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's one that I've never vended a show, but now that I produce so many different species, it's kind of like it's maybe worthwhile at least vending a couple of shows. And if I could do that, and I heard that Bob Vu's show was really good, and it's only 5.5 hours from me, it'd be worthwhile kind of maybe doing those two shows.
Heck yeah,
we'll see.
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. It'll be cool to see some diversity, some serious diversity at the shows. Nobody has. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but the vast majority of people don't see or have some of the stuff that you work with. So
yeah. Some of it's kind of rare enough.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But heck yeah, man. So Warren, for those of you who might be tuning in who don't know about you or where you got your start or anything, what got you started into reptiles?
I grew up in a family that was very animal oriented. My parents at one point in time, so I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and at one point my parents owned a pet store. I can't remember how long it was for. I was maybe only 5 or 6 years old at the time, but it always meant that we had animals around the house. I was maybe 15 or 16. A friend of mine, my friend Oliver Jeffers, his brother Rory had a leopard gecko, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And then I was working for my dad one Saturday. He kind of repaired and rebuilt chimneys and boilers and fires, and I helped him on Saturdays to get some extra money. And in one of the houses we went into, I can remember it as clear as day. There was I was really into betta fish at the time. I had a lot of Siamese fighting fish, and I was breeding those for fun. Kind of thought it was kind of cool genetics projects to play with. Mm-hmm. And we walked into this house, and to the right-hand side of the fireplace was a fish tank. And so I thought, it'll be interesting to see what fish are in it. And I walked up, and there was no fish in it. There was a snake in it. It was probably a Tamnophis or a Radix or something like that there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
These fine branches, it was moving around the branches, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I went home that afternoon, and I went to my mom and said, it'd be kind of cool if I could get a reptile. And she was like, yeah, no problem. So 2 weeks later, we went out and I got a leopard gecko. And that led to 2 leopard geckos, and then I got a hognose snake, and it led to some king snakes. And then I got a book called, I think it was like Breeding Pythons and Boas. It was one of those TFH books that had a Timor python on the cover, but on the inside cover was an Amazon tree boa. So I then got a pair of Amazon tree boas, and it kind of escalated from there. And that was 30 years ago, and I've been keeping snakes continually since then. We had a nice group of leopard geckos at the time. 30 years ago, we actually just started getting back into leopard geckos recently. But I keep about 22, I think it's 21 or 22 different species I've got. I used to be very centered on boas and tree boas, but now I've kind of moved into some pythons, not ball pythons. I did that and I got out of it 3 times. Actually, I do have 3 ball pythons, but they're for scientific projects. But mainly tree boas, some ground boas, and then I've got a bunch of Antaresia, so the children's and the spotteds, different morphs of those, and then Dunn's pythons, and I've got some Sumatran short tails, the caramels, and some Sanzinia, bits like that there, and a bunch of emeralds and stuff. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. So are you gonna say something, Rob?
No, I was just gonna say I think it's kind of interesting that it's like leopard geckos and hognose snake. Like, I feel like those are kind of more popular now in the hobby than they used to be, because I did not see hognose snakes when I was younger, like for sale as pets, hardly ever.
I got one. It was a male, and I worked in a reptile store at the time. And a guy that would come in every week to get his one mouse for his hognose snake, was saying, if you ever want, you can take my female and we could try to breed them. And this is 30 or 29 years ago, 28 years ago, and we did. I didn't have a clue about bruminating them or hibernating them. So I literally, I popped up some floorboards in my parents' kind of back bathroom toilet in the house. So it was underneath the home. And I put the snake in a styrofoam box with a water bowl and a nest box. And I put it there for 3 months. I just closed over the wooden floor and look at it for 3 months.
Wow.
This is in Belfast. It's not the warmest place, especially in the winter. And 3 months later, I popped it open, and I outwiggles the snake, and I paired it with this female. She laid 2 clutches of 12 eggs. 23 hatched and one was deformed, so the 24th egg was deformed. 23 hatched, they all shed immediately. They all started feeding on defrost pink mice, and I sold them all, and it was great. But at that point, I was selling them for like, I think it was like 25 or 30 pounds, so like $40 each. And it was fun, you know. And I actually, you know, years later, some people brought some of the animals back to me that I'd produced, and I then bred those with different animals I had. And then with leopard geckos, you know, back then there was just, you could get normals or high yellows.
Hypos and high yellows.
Yeah.
Hypos at that point. The Murphy patternless had just come out, really, and was floating around the UK, and Tremper albinos were floating about the UK. And I bought a trio of Tremper albinos from a leopard gecko breeder in the UK called Ray Hine, and they shipped them in November through DHL. The package got lost for 5 days in November. They finally found it. I picked it up, you know, and you take out these leopard geckos that are frozen solid, and I thought, well, that's it. And I brought them home, and I was so disgusted, I just left the box in my kind of little reptile room. And I went back like an hour later, and I saw like a foot twitch on each one, and they all, within a couple of hours, they were back to life, and they laid eggs months later. You know, so it's amazing how robust these little things are. You know,
that's wild.
I also had the Tremper albino male loved to eat eggs. So anytime the female laid, he was eating the eggs. I haven't produced a lot of them, but I did produce some. But so that started, and then, you know, years later, I got back into some hognose, you know, not deliberately, but through my friend Shane in Knoxville. He gave me a pair in part of a trade, and then we got some leopard geckos for my son. But I was of the opinion he wanted a leopard gecko, but I said, you're not getting a leopard gecko, you'll get a pair of leopard geckos. And a pair came into 1.3, you know, about $2,500 worth of leopard geckos he got. But and we just got the first eggs from those a couple of weeks ago, so that was fun. So he's really excited. He's only 7 years old, but he loves them, so he's really excited.
That's so cool.
And now that means that I'm on Morph Market looking up leopard geckos every day, thinking, oh, it'd be kind of cool if I put some in my office. It'd be kind of cool if we
now that I know this, I'll start spamming you pictures, because I'm probably due in for like 50 clutches this year. So I'll just start spamming you with when stuff happens.
I've been watching your stuff, trust me. I'd actually really like to get a trio or a pair of the hardwick guy. I've been watching some of those on Morph Market. Maybe this year I'll see if I can get some. The things that people don't want, you know, I'll get them, and they're too expensive, and you can hardly get males, but I'll see what I can do.
Heck yeah, man. I dig it.
I dig
it. I'm gonna jump to the comments really quick, because there's a bunch of people who are throwing stuff in the comments. You mentioned the Dunn's pythons. Timothy asks, has the Dunn's laid yet?
No, it's due. I just checked on the female tonight. She had her post-ovulation shed on the 12th, because I had she and T-positive children's, and I had T-positive children's all shed in the same day. So I don't know the number of days past post-ovulation shed for those, but she's looking great. She's, you know, I went out a couple of weeks ago and I bought a bunch of those little Govee temperature sensors, and I put them in all of the nest boxes. And I just keep checking on her. She must be pissed off, because all I do is I walk into the room and instantly I'm kind of open the drawer 6 times a day and checking. But she's in her nest box, and it's sitting at 83.8 degrees Fahrenheit with 87% humidity. So hopefully we'll see something soon. You know, I had a couple of clutches of womas 2 or 3 weeks ago with a friend of mine in Knoxville. I sent my womas down to him, and he's breeding them, and he's got his pair as well. And then I had a Cape York spotted python lay earlier this week, but she produced 15 eggs, of which 14 were slugs. So I've got one fertile lone egg sitting in a nest box in the incubator. So I'm hoping that the Duns and the children's don't go that way. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right.
And it's funny because the Duns that I've got, my friend Ryan Young gave me the pair over the space of a couple of years. He sent me a male 1 year, and then he sent me a female a couple of years later. And I wasn't going to try to breed them. And I just thought, well, screw it. They're cycled anyway. I'll throw them together. And I didn't see any breeding until one day I pulled open the drawer like a month later, and there they were breeding, and they were added about every couple of days. And then I saw the female ovulate. She was huge. So I thought something's going right. But
Yeah.
In 26, 27 years ago, we could find them in the UK, and they were about $80 or $90 each. They were on
Jeez.
reptile lists, and nobody wanted them, because they looked like, really muddy Macklot's pythons, the ones that were coming in. So
Yeah.
people ignored them. And look at them now, they're now kind of really desirable. It's kind of crazy of what rarity does,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
hopefully we'll produce some babies.
Heck yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll get back to Limey's sarcasm later.
Turd.
Oh man. Love hearing knowledge from Warren. Can you ask him about his Eastern Sanzinia breeding this year? So what's going on with the Eastern Sanzinia?
Yeah, they're not breeding this year, the greens. Next year I'm planning. So that they're big enough. The female's eating kind of large, medium rats. They'll probably eat small or large rats by next year, but they're probably old enough. It's just that I probably could have tried them this year and I just didn't think about it. But I'm going to try next year. I've been talking to a couple of people that have bred them successfully. And where I'm living here in Blacksburg, Virginia, in the house that we built, we haven't got the basement. The basement's only part of the basement is finished at the moment. So there's part of it on the concrete slab that can get pretty cold. So I'm planning to put in an enclosure right on the concrete slab.
There you go.
And put the pair in there and let them get down. I'll put it. They'll be on a thermostat, but it should mean that she can get down to the lower temperatures against the slab, and we'll see how it goes. Like my house doesn't get down into the 50s. It's a really kind of ultra modern, kind of high spec home. But we'll see what I can get it to, And if not, then what I'll do the following years, I'll put them into the garage, and because they will get cold then.
Right.
I'll probably kill them, but we'll see what happens. It would be nice to see some baby Eastern Sanzinia. So
that'd be really cool.
I had a small group back in Northern Ireland before I moved to the US 20 years ago, but you couldn't ship CITES 1 animals, so I had to sell them. I think I sold them for £350 each, so that's about $450 each.
Oh, geez.
You pay, and they don't go for the money they go for here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but now I look back and it's like, God, the things I had that I sold for peanuts.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's a shame that if you're moving that they won't let you bring stuff like that, because it's not like you're selling it to somebody else. Like it would be very involved for someone to have a racket of I'm going to move back and forth to bring some snakes.
Yeah. It is a bit crazy, and I've heard recently that some people have been able to bring CITES 1 animals in from Europe. So it just takes a lot of work. I'm working on trying to get boas brought in from Mexico, which is just an absolute nightmare because I'm trying to bring in some of the albino Sonoran boas legally.
That'll be cool.
It's just a nightmare with paperwork, but I'm trying to do it because I only want legal animals. I know there's some of the albinos here already in the US, but I need to have paperwork that says here's where they're exported from, by who, and so on.
Right.
But I will look into. We brought in Trinidad tree boas legally under scientific license. We're looking to do that with St. Lucia boas. No, sorry, not St. Lucia. The nebulosa, the clouded boa nebulosa. So we're trying to work with Dominica to bring in 10 animals.
That's the island that my dad's from.
Oh, really? Yeah. So we're trying to work with those to bring in some legally, to set up a breeding kind of group that would then be distributed among zoos.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I think everything's possible, but it just takes a lot of work.
So. Yeah. Dominic is very tight about that stuff, which is crazy because when I went there, all the farmers were telling me how many of them they kill, and I'm like, oh my god, if we could just get some of these out of here.
Yeah, they're not uncommon on the island.
Yeah.
It's just they're not legal to export, so it's just a bit of it's like Hog Island boas on the Chaos Coquinus. They're really high density now, but I think that island got a bit burnt whenever they went in and just plundered the place 25 years ago, so they won't ship again.
Yeah, gluttony
That'd
is
be cool if you could
horrible
get some
thing.
nebulosa out. Because I know that there was some floating around Europe for a while, but Not in the States.
Yeah, there's one pair in the States.
Damn.
Yeah, so there's one adult pair in the States, but it looks like they need kind of multiple males for breeding, because the females just anytime they breed, she's just not ovulating. We'll see kind of where that goes. I think I've tracked down a male to a zoo in the US as well, so we're going to see if we can work with that to get it to the guy that's got the pair nebulosa, at least on
That's
breeding
cool.
them, which would be kind of cool. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that'd be super.
If we work for that, then we'd try St. Lucia to get the Orpheus. That'd be kind of cool to get some of those as well, because they're essentially non-existent in captivity, even in Europe now.
Yeah.
All of those animals, I think some of them came down with IBD and kind of wiped out a whole group of them, and they're not easy to breed. So a species that was at one point available is just non-existent now.
Damn.
It's wild how something small like that can just like really just take an entire species out from, the general hobby.
And then part of it is, you spoke to some of the people that had nebulosa, for example, in Europe. They said, "Oh yeah, we sold them. We just thought they were ugly."
Yep.
These snakes, they weren't the nice, Pokecron Surinams or the nice Brazilian red, so they just saw these dark. Like I remember my friend Clive Osborne had nebulosa and Orpheus. The Orpheus were beautiful, but the nebulosa were just big, dark, ugly, nasty boas, and you just walk. You didn't think at that point, hey, these could be something,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm actually excited about that. That's really cool. The last time I went to Dominica was a long time ago, 17 years ago, but I caught like a 6-foot long adult one, pulled it out from underneath an apricot tree.
Wow.
And that was like the highlight of my whole trip. It was amazing.
Yeah, I would
There's
imagine.
some cool reptiles down there.
Yeah, I'd love to see them in the wild. I've seen them in captivity, but never in the wild. I've heard some interesting stories about them basking and getting really, really hot. They go up to these kind of volcanic regions and kind of sit in the smoldering earth and just bask. And it's kind of interesting. My friend that got the pair here, he said the female will constantly sit at 94 degrees basking.
Yeah.
And which is just kind of insane, because any other of my boas that did that, they just probably explode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Dang.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Dang. So what are you've obviously got some tree boa species and some Central American boa species. What are some of the other species that you've got?
In terms of the tree boas, or in terms of just well, we've got I'll just go through everything. I suppose we've got the boa sigma and the boa imperator, and I really work on these Costa Rican T positive line of the boa imperator, and I've bred that into a couple of things, but it's mainly the T positive stuff I work with. And then with the Sigma, it's the Sonoran. I've got a pure line of Anarthristics. I've got the leopards and the hypomelanistics, so we play with those. We've got some West Snake K and Lagoon K and Crawl K boas from the island boas.
That's cool.
And then what else? We got Brazilian rainbows, Colombian rainbow boas, and with the Colombians, we've got the T positives, T negatives, Anarthristics, and patternless. The Eastern Sanzinia, I got with emeralds. I've got with Corallus. I got they're all northern emeralds, so they're the anaconda phase and the non-anaconda, the regular phase. Mm-hmm. I've got a bunch of Hortolana again. I used to breed them a lot. I bred them about 25, 26 times, and I just got back into them over the last couple of years. So I got leopards and tiger head leopards, and then through a friend of mine, I just got a bunch of some reds and bicolors that are really nice.
Heck yeah.
Emerald Amazon hybrid, Corallus granadensis, Corallus annulatus. I got some of those. Do I have any other Corallus? I think that's it. And then spotted pythons, children's pythons, pygmy banded pythons, Dunn's pythons, caramel albino short tails. And I've got 3 ball pythons, redfoot tortoises, got some Herman's tortoises coming, and then the leopard geckos. I think that's it. I think that's 21, maybe somewhere around there, species.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
It's a full house, man. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And I've got all the Ruschenbergeri. The one that I got most of are the Trinidad tree boas and the Venezuela.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I've got a whole bunch of those. So I forgot those. But yeah, I had the Costa Ricans, but I just sold my last pair of Costa Rican Ruschenbergeri a couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. I can't remember. just to make space, because I've got a bunch of these little Trinidads that are growing up and they get pretty big.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've got Timor pythons. I forgot about those. I got Timor pythons.
What the hell?
Just the casual.
The coolest ones, damn it.
Forgot about those.
I feel like I'm missing something. I think that's it.
It's just the next forgotten. Oh, Bolins or just forgot one of those.
No, I don't have any.
There we go. What about the house snakes?
Oh shit! I've got house snakes. Yes, and I've got. Eric sent.
He was forgetting something.
Eric Westmoreland sent me a trio of house snakes, albinos and head albinos. So they're awesome. I had house snakes years ago, back in Northern Ireland, and I thought they were fantastic. So to have those again is a lot of fun, and they're it's amazing how small they are, and yet they're just like little. They remind me of rainbow boas because they're just voracious. They're really kind of cognitive and when they're looking at you, so they're kind of cool.
Heck yeah.
I think that's everything now. no, I've got desert king snakes as well.
It's gonna be the rest of the episode. It's just the occasional, like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Oh yeah, and this.
I'll go through the racks and the cages, and I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
Now I don't feel so bad when that happens to me.
No. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a bit crazy, but I got oh no shit no, I got Womas and I've got Darwin carpets as well. Yeah, that's it. Now I think that's it now. Yes.
Now that's everything.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All the age and leopard geckos. Lisa said, I've got the leopard geckos. Well, they're my standard, but they're Dylan's. But I'm kind of totally re-immersed back in those little beasts. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. That every time I climbed up, I'm like, because I was sitting thinking about this a while back, and I thought, what if I probably got about 10 or 12 species. I was like 21, 20. I was like, holy shit. We got a few too many.
Yeah. Dude, I do the same thing when people ask me what kind of colubrids I have, and I'm like, I just have one rack because pretty much all I keep are U.S. native species.
Yeah.
So gradients get to be pretty similar across the board. So I'll go through. Oh yeah, I have a rack of colubrids, and I'm like, oh wait, there's this, there's that, there's that. Suddenly I'm like 7 species in, and I'm like, oh crap, there's a lot of stuff in there.
I know. I keep looking at a bunch of different colubrids because I kept a lot of colubrids back in Ireland. There was a PhD student in the building that I was working in that was working on a behavioral study. She was in psychology and she was working on a kind of a behavioral enrichment study, and they needed a bunch of corn snakes, and they wanted all just different, like albinos and snows and so on, to be able to test more versus normal. So I got them about 50 or 60 corn snakes. They raised them up for 3 years, and then one day they called me up. The animal handling group called me up because I would buy all my rodents from this animal facility at the university. And they said, Warren, we've got all these corn snakes. The study's finished. Would you like them? And I was like, well, how much do you want for them? And he goes, oh, nothing. Just come and take them. So
geez.
I'd sold them, baby corn snakes for $15 or $20 each equivalent. And 3 years later, I got 50 or 60 adult corn snakes of which it was like 30 males and 30 females.
Oh.
So I sold 20 of the males. And I kept the other 10 males and all of the females and just bred them at the wazoo, to the point I remember I didn't have an incubator, so I just put them on the top shelf in my reptile room.
Yeah.
Yep.
Forget about them.
Yeah.
You'd go in and just like, oh shit, and you'd pick them down and they're just hatched eggs and shed skins. Like, all right, perfect. Now I can go and feed them. So I did those for a bunch of years. Those and some Texas rats and black rats and stuff like that. They were a lot of fun. But I look at a bunch of I keep looking at the some of the Asian rat snakes now, and I really like the Gonyosoma, the green.
Oh yeah, the red-tailed green rats.
I really like those, and I wouldn't mind getting some of those. But yeah, I think I need to stop getting anything, to tell you the truth. So. Yeah.
Oh man. No, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I really like the Asian rat snake stuff. When I was younger, I was like infatuated with bamboo racers.
Yeah,
all the Oreo Cryptophis. That was so much fun. So much fun for cool little snakes.
So you spend all your time looking on Pro Exotic's old website.
Yes, absolutely.
And you still can. So I found this website. It's called the Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
That absorbs my time. I'm like, I'll just look at it for like 5 minutes, and then like 4.5 hours later, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like looking back on David Tracy's website, looking back on Bob Clark's old website, just these ones that I remember from being back in Northern Ireland when the internet was just starting, the old Corallus.com website, and man, I love that stuff. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very neat.
I dig it. So I have to ask really quick because so I have one Ruschenberger here. I have a couple others that are coming from Ryan Martinez next week, and I'm stoked. But are your Rushis absolute demons?
Oh, they're assholes.
Okay.
even our kind of F1 babies are all assholes. So the Costa Rican ones were fine, and they didn't get as big as the Trinidads or the Venezuelans, but they still got, my adult females were eating large rats, and big animals, but they were more they were very like a more placid Amazon tree boa that if they did strike, they were kind of floppy. That Amazon tree boa, how they exist is because they don't really do it very well, and Trinidad tree boas and Venezuelans, if they want to, they'll hit you, and they know how to do it, and they're straight at it.
Yes.
My Trinidadads are pretty big beasts. They rival scrub pythons in many ways. And their heads are huge, and they'll hit you hard if they go. They've hit the gloves a couple of times, but I handle very few of my snakes, and those ones, it's always during the day that I'm in cleaning. I was just cleaning them today. And I've got these. I think you do the same thing. There's the corrugated PVC tubes.
Oh yes, yep.
They love to sleep in those during the day, so I'm like set them out. I put caps on either end, and then I can and then I put it back in, uncap it, and then but there, and I got a whole bunch of those things.
Yeah,
and I had a clutch of Venezuelan Ruschenbergerite babies maybe a month ago. Even then, they're assholes. Even as babies, assholes.
Yeah, this little one that I have is a little Venezuelan, and it's just as soon as I open up that enclosure, it's keyed in and it's taking at least 3 pops at me in 5 seconds, and I'm just like, bro, just chill, please. Yeah. Why do you hate everything right now?
Every single one, and it's not as if I go in and poke at them and stuff. I just leave them alone.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even looking at you. Yeah,
I posted a picture of one on my Instagram a couple of days ago after it's just shed and I was misting, and I thought that was kind of a cool picture, so I took a picture of it. And it's one that I got from Mike Schultz. He found it on a table at a show advertised as an Amazon, and he sent me a picture. Man. I was like, yeah, I'll take that. And so I actually traded him some Costa Rican Ruschenbergerite babies for it. So I've had that animal, I don't know how long now, maybe 4 years. It's an asshole since day one. It's the one that I'll walk into my room and you just hear that hitting the glass.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Like there's, and I've got a bunch of the PVC.com cages. Jim Sharphorn, I think, was the guy. They're actual glass. They're swing doors, but it's actual glass, and it's not very thick. And I'm thinking that thing is going to go through it someday because it just smacks it against it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, they're assholes, and they don't appear to tame down. The ones that I have, I've been Ruschenbergerite for 10 or 11 years, 12 years, and they don't. And yet, despite how I'm not going to say aggressive, how asshole-ish they are, getting babies to feed is a nightmare.
Really,
the Costa Ricans are simple. The South American lineage are just really difficult. The Trinidads and the Venezuelans are not easy to get going. So I got one of the babies to go last night. It was the first time I offered, but I had a pink mouse that I covered in chick down, and after 30 minutes, it finally took it, and then it sat for an hour and a half, biting this defrosted pink mouse and coiling it, and I'm like doing the whole like freezing thing.
Yep.
And it got to like 2:15 in the morning because I feed everything really late at night. And I thought I just have to back away, and I was kind of sliding in the drawer. Really, I thought it's gonna feel this here, but it didn't. It kept on to it, and it ate it. So
Damn.
Hell yeah.
I just I've got a whole bunch of these different lizard and frog scents. I got some chick broth ready, and I've got some, I think it's like tuna or salmon in a can, for the oil.
Yep.
So I think I'll go at it next week. Once they shed, I give them a few weeks to get kind of active and stuff. So
yeah,
next week and see what I can do, because it'd be nice to get those all going.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheesh.
I wonder if like Vienna sausage would work, because like when I was breeding hognose snakes, any of the picky baby hognose, dip a little pink mouse nose in some Vienna sausage juice, and they would just immediately slam it, like without it. And when I had males that would like stop eating after breeding season, and they were like really being picky, whatever it is that's in Vienna sausage juice just gets them right away, right onto whatever it is.
I'm gonna have to write that down.
It worked like magic for me, like, because I tried tuna, I tried salmon, I tried this and that, and like ramen, and like all these different things that I've heard of people like from back in the day. And then someone recommended the Vienna sausage juice, and that was like magic. I don't know what the heck. It makes me worry what they put in Vienna sausages, because whatever it is, the wild snakes are like, oh, frog and lizard shit. I love this.
Yeah. A guy that Jeff JMG.
Jeff Galewood. Yeah,
he's been talking about this scent. It's a lizard and frog combination scent that he's been using on hognose. And I commented on it on a Instagram page, and the guy that produces it actually hit me up and said, look, why don't you try some of it because I'd said, look, I'll buy some. And he's like, no, I'm going to ship you some, and just tell me how it goes for these Corallus, because we know it works really well for hognose, but we don't know about something else. So I got some of it, and I'm gonna try it. It's kind of weird. It comes in these like little, almost like they look like sticks of chewing gum, and you just have a snip and you put it in some hot water and let it,
like a bouillon cube.
So it's we'll see how that goes, because I've got that, and I've got the Reptilinks, kind of different anole, frog, and whatever. We'll see what happens.
Eric Westmoreland says cooked rat smells like cooked hot dogs. I don't think I like that.
I don't know what Eric's eating, but the ones that I eat definitely don't smell like cooked rat.
Oh man. All right, I'm gonna jump over to the chat to address some of Limey's terrible humor that has popped into the chat a couple of times. We'll go back a little bit. Apparently you have to show off this guitar instead of just pretending to be cool.
It's my office. It's my office pet. It's one that I built during COVID.
You built that?
Yeah, it's a replica. There's a really good bass player called Pino Palladino.
Oh yeah,
and I really like Pino. And but his signature bass from Fender is about $5,500.
Yeah. Yes.
And I realized that I could build one during COVID because I wasn't doing anything else. So I built this all together by the time I'd finished. And I used the custom shop pickups and everything, so it's about $1,100 it cost me in the end. So I just use that whenever I'm working and things are kind of, the brain's not working well, I'll sit and noodle for a little bit. But I also needed to move it out of the house because there's 7 other ones in my office. If I want to bring any more in, I need to make it look like some are migrating. So,
yeah.
Fair. Yeah, and there's another one that I want to get. So not that I don't really play much anymore. I don't play in bands much anymore. I used to a lot. I used to play 5 or 6 nights a week back in Ireland, but I just don't now. But in fact, I played last week for the first time with some friends at the university. But I still seem to acquire basses. My wife is convinced they're breeding. So.
It's the reptile keeper thing, It's just like you have a couple, and then all of a sudden there's more. Where the hell did these come from?
The way I try to work it is, if I get them in sunburst, then my wife doesn't really know. I don't think the difference between a Fender Precision and a Jazz and a 5-string and a Moscow back signature, so I can kind of put it in and just put another one back in the case, and and it looks the same aesthetically on the wall.
That's amazing. I wish trumpet players did that, man. Like, yeah, here's a trumpet, dude. Enjoy that.
Yeah.
We fight over our instruments.
Oh, I know. The main basses that I've had for 30 years. I bought them new 30 years ago. 30,
Oh man,
33 years ago. So, and I've still got them. And yeah, I could never sell those things. You know, they're like a part of me.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jeremy, how old are you?
I am 33.
I'm 47, so I bought it when I was 14. Yeah, I remember. I remember that night buying my main Fender Jazz, and I love it. Yeah,
Heck
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
man.
Mhm.
I dig it. All right, one more limey sarcastic comments. Then I think he ran away, so we might be safe. But is that your pocketbook on the chair? What's going on?
Oh, that's my nice leather laptop bag. You know,
That's where he keeps all his science stuff, man.
Some of my science stuff. Yeah, my wife bought me that for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I really like it. So,
heck yeah,
yeah.
smells good.
I love it. So you were saying that you're starting to get back into some Amazon tree boa stuff. Has the bug bitten you, or are you just kind of coming back to dabble a little bit?
It never left me. You know,
Yeah.
like at one point in time I had, God, I don't know, I had 30 something, maybe 40 of them back in Northern Ireland, and I was breeding them through multiple generations. I love those things.
That's awesome.
And you know, I got them from, you know, gray, brown, kind of nasty looking ones that were wild caught, and the first litters produced some really nice yellow kind of bicolors, and I held those back. And then I got another pair, of which a male was kind of a reddish browny color, but nothing fancy. And I bred it to a bicolor, and some of the babies came out solid red. And I held them back and just played around with those a lot. And you know, being a geneticist, it was kind of like, and at that point, I think I was in an undergrad doing my degree in genetics. So kind of that, it was much more interesting to play with those genetics than Mendel's pea plants and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we were kind of slowly working through that. But when I moved to the US, I sold all of my Corallus group whenever I moved to the US.
Mm-hmm.
So I had emeralds and I had a lot of Amazons. And I sold them to a guy in the UK and in Cambridge, I think it was. And then when I came over to the US, two very good friends of mine, John and Jane Camp, who were the first ones to breed leopard boas, or the leopard Amazons. They had an absolutely enormous collection of Amazons that would put every collection that I know of in the US right now to shame. You know, just incredible animals, but they kept themselves to themselves. And they gave me some animals and I played with those. But then over time, just with being a postdoc at the time and working a lot, and then it's, you know, I sold those, or maybe I sent them back to them, I can't remember. But just in the last handful of years, kind of I see them pop up, and I you know, picked up some leopards and some tiger head leopards, and I thought, that's all I want. I thought 2 or 3, maybe 4 animals. And then Brandon I can't remember whether he hit me up about drinking T positives, and he was like, would you be interested in trading? And I was like, yeah, I'm always interested in trading. So, you know, he said, right, I've got a litter due. I said, right, well, give me a shout whenever you got stuff. And a couple of months ago, he hit me up, and he only lives 2 hours away from me. So we met up halfway. We chatted for quite a long time. It was really nice. Really enjoyed talking to him and his wife. Yeah. And I walked away with 4 Amazons. And then Ryan Young sent me another Amazon, sent me a really adult female bicolor. So I went from 3 to whatever, I got 7 or 8 now, something like that. But I'm not getting any more unless there's some nice hypos. I'd like a nice hypo, but
heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Yeah, those ones you got from Brandon, those are some of his Dark Grove outcross stuff. Yeah.
And that's what I really wanted, because I talked to Ralph from Dark Grove. So I've been in the US 19, 20 years. 25 years ago, I was talking to Ralph. Whenever I was in Belfast, I was emailing, I'd see his animals, and I was trying to work out a way. At that time, I had no idea that I'd be moving to the US.
Right.
And I was trying to work out a way of bringing animals over from the US to the UK or to Ireland, because I really wanted to get some of his solid red and his bicolor dark grove animals.
Yeah.
And we could just never get it to work out because it was just such a pain in the ass trying to sort out that kind of paperwork. CITES was a lot harder to deal with then. And it just never happened. And then whenever I was at a point where where I was getting back into Amazons, I couldn't find any of his stuff. And then I found out that Ralph had died.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know. I just thought, well, that opportunity's gone. And then Brandon hit me up. And he said, "Oh, I got these ones." I was like, "Ooh,
Yep.
I'll do that."
Yeah.
So they're sitting there. They're eating, and I'm, I don't have the biggest of reptile rooms, but we have to build another room in my basement, and that might end up being another Amazon Emerald room. Maybe move everything over into that part, because I'm just trying to think about what space I've got to put things in.
Yep.
In a couple of years' time when they're bigger, but they're a lot of fun. Amazons they're such easy animals to keep.
Yeah.
Easy to feed. They're not trouble to get babies going. And there seems to be a market for them. Again, whenever I was breeding solid reds and bicolor, I couldn't give them away back in Ireland. I was selling solid red animals for $70, $80 equivalent of, and nobody wanted them.
Wow.
No, and these weren't calicos. These weren't calicos. These were just solid red. Which is the one. I'm not a huge fan of the calico. I like some of the calico stuff, but I think some of them look washed out. I like the banded kind of, the ones that are more patterned.
Yep.
I really like those calicos, but these ones were just solid red and just great animals. But nobody wanted Amazons then because they were just bitey, nasty animals.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oof, if they only knew.
I know. Things change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things do change.
Yeah. I look back, as I said earlier, with Dunn's pythons, with Amazons, everything like that. There, the market is remarkable how it kind of fluctuates. I look at it with Amazon tree boa. Sorry, with the Hog Island boas. I look at it with Brazilian rainbow boas that I breed. And, 1 year they're the hottest thing, and the next year you can't give them away. Like Dumeral's boas as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it is wild. What's another Bismarck ring pythons? Another one. Yeah.
Fashion, because they're really delicate. That's the thing with those. They're
right.
They're an animal that you really need to be wise about keeping because they dehydrate really quickly. They're like Brazilian rainbow boas, but you don't with a baby Brazilian, if the water dries up, 2 days later you've got a dead baby Brazilian. They dehydrate ultra fast.
Right.
And Bismarcks are the same. They're ultra delicate. Just like white lips are the same. Baby white lips.
Yep.
So they're not for everybody, and I think that scared people away at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fair. Yeah, to have that to need that extra layer of attention.
Yeah, because I like being able to go. Like whenever I lived in Oklahoma, we moved to Virginia 2 years ago. But whenever we lived in Oklahoma, we would go to the Outer Banks of North Carolina every year for vacation, or every other year. That's a 22-hour drive. We'd spend about a 3-week vacation, between a week driving the two back and forward and 2 weeks of the Outer Banks. So I need to have animals that I could put a large water bowl in and not worry about these things desiccating, if they knock the water bowl over. So that's why I've never got into Bismarcks. I do like them, but they are just ones that, while the humidity in Oklahoma was not good. So you pour water into a bowl and you watch it evaporate. That was
right.
Evaporating. Yeah.
Here it's a lot better. Maybe someday I'll get them because they are kind of cool animals.
They are cool.
They're really pretty.
Yeah. They were actually some at the Raleigh show. Somebody had a pair of babies, and I was like, wait, where? Because you just really don't see them that much like that.
And I suppose the other thing that turned people off them was they look awesome as babies, but as adults they lose a lot of that color. But then they become very highly iridescent, and
that's my thing. People they get ugly, and I'm like, oh, so you hate iridescent snakes now? Okay, I see how it is. Boland's pythons get all the hype because they're a little bit iridescent, but Bismarck ring python goes from neon orange and black to highly iridescent.
Really highly iridescent. Yeah, that's cool that they saw them at Raleigh. So people are breeding them, which is good. I see them popping up every year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a small but solid group of folks working with them.
Yeah, same with
for
Sabu
sure.
pythons. It's nice to see more people finally working with those again, because
Absolutely.
they kind of went out of fashion because they're nippy and, black snakes with white
Musky.
eyes. Nobody really cared, but now they're kind of back in fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm waiting. Steve Tillis has that hypermelanistic ring python.
Oh, no
Do you
way,
remember,
does
do you
it?
remember that, Rob, when we went down there? Yeah. So I know we went down there because a few years ago,
Mhm.
and that was probably maybe like 3 foot long ish. So it should be of breeder size.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'd love to see if that, what that thing ends up producing, because that was really cool.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I kind of lurk on his Instagram page and stuff, and
Yeah.
I really like the sunset Borneos that he's got,
Yes.
and he's got some really nice animals.
Yeah, he really does.
Nice.
I joke. I've known Steve since we were teenagers, and I always joke that his purpose for being put on the earth was to make me look bad, because he was always like one step ahead of me when we were kids on what he was breeding or what he was producing, and I'm just like, God dang it, dude.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, man. But is there? I know you said you have to. You're at a point where you have to stop bringing in new species. But if there was a species that that you had to make that investment in, is there something that's out on that periphery that you're like, man, I'd be okay with that?
Yeah, Halmahera scrubs. I'm
Hell
really,
yeah.
yeah. So we're working on this big genetic project about scrub pythons, and as a result of it, myself and Ryan Young and Nick have been, we spent some time out in, not a lot, we spent 42 hours out in Hawaii at the Bishop Museum going through their scrub python museum collection stuff, and some of the stuff we saw was just really incredible. But I've always liked scrub pythons, and a friend of mine had a very large pair of Moluccan scrubs back in Northern Ireland 25 years ago, and they were incredible. But I've always liked the Tracyi, and I think they're kind of a neat animal. So I can imagine the room that I will eventually claim is meant to be a storeroom at the moment in their basement. It's going to be another reptile. I'll have Corallus in it, but I want to put a couple of 6 foot enclosures in for my Timor pythons, and then I could probably see myself putting in 2 more 4 or 6 foot enclosures for a pair of Tracyi. But
Hell yeah.
we'll see. Other stuff will need to go. Maybe that's later in life.
That's
But
fair. Yeah.
I think they're beautiful animals. I like that scrub python head, which is why I like the Timor pythons as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe. So I think those. I'm trying to think, is there? Realistically, there's the other Corallus is not going to be in captivity. Corallus corpani is not. It will never exist in captivity.
Right.
Yep.
I saw they just found another live one today or yesterday or something like that there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is interesting because it looks like a Costa Rican Ruschenbergeri, the color of it and the
Oh,
pattern.
wow.
So it's very different than some of the other Corpani that you see.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's not a lot of stuff that I want anymore. But if I end up with Tracyi at some point, it'd be kind of fun. Yeah,
Heck
and
yeah, man.
some of the monitors I like the tree monitors, and I really like the dwarf monitors. Is it King Orem or the tiny
Yeah.
ones? There's like,
Oh,
I
yes. Yeah,
think they're kind of neat, but
absolutely.
the problem is that if I travel, if I go away for 10 days for work, then I need someone that's going to feed them. And at the moment, my wife would not in any way have any interest in doing that. My son, when he gets older, probably would be happy to.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I feel like that is definitely one of the key things when you're locked in as a snake guy and you have that flexibility and freedom for travel and everything. You're like, man, but those lizards are really cool. And then you're like, but I can only go away for 2 days.
Tortoises, but with the tortoises, I can just put down a big bowl full of the dried kind of the pellets, whatever company that is that does the
Missouri.
rat chow, but they do the tortoise pellets. So I can just put like a big bowl of those down, and they just come along and munch them whenever they want, and that's it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but some monitors, it's a bit more difficult, And even with leopard geckos, if we went away for a week or two,
That's
we
true.
could just put a bowl full of mealworms, another bowl full of dubia roaches, and just they'll
they're cool.
They'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, they'll be fine.
The things that require a bit more care, like the varanids, makes it a bit more difficult, but I love those.
Absolutely. I want to see if I can pull this up really quick. I was talking with Ryan Martinez not too long ago, and we were geeking out. Rob, I showed you this video of this insane annulatus, and I want to see if you had seen it. See if I can pull it up. But it was red and green.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen this picture of this one.
Did you? Yeah, I was.
Is this the one in the wild?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's actually a Bloombergi. I don't think it was an annulatus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you look at Bloombergi, whether that's a real species or not, or just a locality of annulatus, time will tell. We're doing some work on those, but they're quite different in color. You get some that are really greenish and really oranges and really red that you don't seem to see in annulatus.
Right.
We see some yellow annulatus, like golden yellow, but we don't see the kind of the reddish colors that you saw. That was an amazing animal.
Right.
Yeah. If it's the one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find this thread that I had with him, because he sent it to me and I was like, "What the heck is going on?"
Yeah, I don't believe Bloombergi exists in captivity.
That is fair.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, I'm getting closer. Here we go. Yeah, let's see. I gotta share.
Annulatus are a lot of fun because they change color so much. I know they're placid, but my ones are not necessarily placid. Mine
really.
Mine would take a thump at you at night. During the day they're okay, but at night they'll let you know that they're not happy. I've got a few females. I need to pick up a male because my females are old enough to breed. I just don't have a male to breed to them.
You were supposed to pick up a male a year and a half ago.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Yeah, this is, I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, that's a different one. That's not the one that I saw. That's
really?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That's smoking.
I'd love to see what color that looks like during the day. Because we've caught annulatus in Costa Rica, and they're the typical kind of brown during the day and kind of taupe, kind of creamy color at night.
Yes,
so interesting to see what that changes to. That's a cool snake.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. I was like, oh my god, whatever it is. I'm so glad it was caught on video because that's just wild looking.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Some of the with Instagram, some of those things pop up in my feed whenever I look at it, and some of the things some of the Corallus that they find in the wild are amazing. Like I saw one a few weeks ago, which was a patternless basin.
Oh, that's cool.
I saw one that was an anaconda phase, but it's a basin, and I just thought that's pretty cool because people were talking were they species specific, and now they seem to be across the board. And I thought that the anaconda phase and the patternless one just looked out of this world.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, sheesh.
Yeah, and I've seen some really nice pictures of wild caught Amazons that you would think are, 5th generation captive bred. They're just incredible. And you're like, how does that thing even exist in the wild? And having been in the rainforest a lot, there's a lot of color, but you still think that's still really vivid,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck cool. Yeah, man.
I like it.
Hell yeah. No, it definitely is. It's like the true jewels of the rainforest. Because having not been to a rainforest, like you see anything that's not brown or green, and you're just like, you probably stick out like a sore thumb, dude. Like,
and most of the stuff's active at night. You look at we would find a lot of things like Halloween snakes that are just as the color of mine. It's like purple and orange. And just see these things moving along the undergrowth, and it's like, geez, well, it just stood out to me. I could see it from 100 feet away.
Right.
How is something else not seeing that there? And it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I dig it. I dig it so much, man. Well, listen, we've hit our hour mark. We just passed our hour mark, and that's usually where we round things out. So we've got one final question that we ask all of our guests on the podcast, man. And that is, what in the realm of reptiles, be it something you've got at your place, something you may have seen online, anything reptile related. What in the realm of reptiles has you excited about reptiles right now?
Well, kind of most things has me excited. For the last 30 years, I've been so immersed in them that, my life revolves around them. We do a lot of work in my lab based on reptiles, even if it's not what my lab does.
Mm.
Because during the day, I'm thinking about reptile work, and at night, I've got all the stuff breeding. I think now it's because I've really diversified and I've gone out to so many different species that I just get really excited going into the room and thinking, what, there's going to be eggs, or there's going to be the thing that's really got me going are these leopard geckos. I think it's really rekindled it's kind of the fun and the passion that I had 30 something years ago whenever I started.
Heck
Yeah.
But seeing the color varieties and I got my son I think it was like a tangerine, mandarin, Tremper albino, bold stripe, something like that there.
Mm-hmm.
These things, the color is just out of this world.
Insane, yeah.
And I look at it now and I just think back and I see the excitement in my son whenever he's playing with them and cleaning them, and whenever we get eggs, and he's really thrilled, So I think, seeing my son kind of coming up into my daughter couldn't care less, because the hognose snakes that I got, I said, well, you can have these, and if they produce and they, we hatch babies and we sell them, we'll put that money into the bank for you, but you're not allowed to touch it until you're 18, unless you want to get more hognose snakes or something like that there. With Dylan, we said, anything that produces that we sell, that money goes into a bank account for you, and you can use that money to buy more leopard gecko stuff, or you can touch it when you're 18. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's either spent on the animals or you got to let it sit there. And he's all right. He's funny because he comes into the reptile room and he's like, well, there's that space. There's not a lot of space left in my room. And he's like, but we could build a rack that we could just put leopard geckos in. Let's give it time. So I think just seeing his excitement really gets it going for me, and he's becoming my helper in the room and stuff, and he's not freaked out by the rats, whereas my daughter is not a big fan of 140 defrosting rats in the room, So that's
it's I mean, it's just like hot dogs, right? That's what Eric said. No.
Well, that's good. Yeah, so there's that, and then I think just seeing the excitement in the whole community, because I've been on the board of USARC for I don't know, now 15, 16 years. Jeff Ronnie and I are the longest serving members on the board of USARC. Mm-hmm. And it was a totally different group whenever it started. And, we've seen the whole hobby go up and down in some really dark times. And we see people really coming together in the community whenever something happens to some people. And it shows you the real community sense that we've got. So I think seeing that as well, I think that is really exciting for me, because it really does show that we've got a really good community around us.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So that, it's always fun to go to a show and hang out with friends. And I've made a lot of friends in the reptile hobby. People that I wouldn't interact with normally because with my day job, so it's been great. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, man.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I dig it. Cool, man. If people want to check out what you've got going on, like some of these cool boa species and everything else you've got going on, where can they check you out?
My Instagram page, Boa Booth, is the main kind of one. Now that I'm working on a bunch of different species, I need to rethink that name. But it's Boa and my last name is Booth, so put that into Instagram. And I try to post every day or two. Kind of, it goes through little lulls where I miss it for a few weeks, but I'm constantly in the room seeing stuff. I'm always taking pictures of stuff. So I try to, and so anytime there's a female that's pregnant, I'll post pictures, or if there's babies born, I'll post pictures. So most people kind of hit me up through that. Yeah.
Sweet.
Heck yeah,
dude. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging with us and just geeking out about reptiles, man.
That's great, man. I love it. I can talk to anyone for any length of time about reptiles. Trust me, it's one of the joys of being Irish, I think, so.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah, I take it. I take it. Well, yeah.
Will I see you both in Charlotte?
You'll definitely see me. I don't know, Rob, are you making the trip down?
It's the 12th and the 13th.
Yeah.
Yes.
I won't be able to do the 12th, but I can probably do the 13th.
I'll be there on the 12th. Yeah.
Heck
yeah. I will miss you.
Yeah.
But I need to get to the rally show. I promised Limey for the last year and a half that I need to get back to the reptiles, so I will. Somebody, I see Eric asking when I'm going to go to Tinley next. I'm not going to Tinley. Maybe in the fall. We'll see what happens. It's difficult because my wife is an assistant principal, and she works
Gotcha.
45 minutes away. My kids get dropped off at 8:45 here in Blacksburg, so I'm the one that does the school run. So it's difficult for me to get to some of these shows as a result of that. But I think I might be able to swing Tinley in the fall or maybe early next year because I love Tinley. You know, it's a fun show.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Cool,
Word.
man. Well, again, thank you so much for coming and hanging with us, man. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Anytime.
Heck
Appreciate
yeah.
Thanks, guys.